Hello, sixth grade. I wanted to take a moment to walk you through our notes for the Iron Man origin story. And I wanted to look at establishing character because that is what we're working on today. So hopefully you had time to read the comic book that I shared with you. And I just want to walk you through some things to help you see what we're doing here. So here's the actual comic book. Tales of Suspense, Iron Man. And I just want to make a little note for you that in the upper right corner is the comic book code. I know your copy was just a little more difficult to see, but hopefully you were able to work through it. So here's another example. Okay. So what I wanted to do here was look at our first piece of information. So we're going to look to describe Tony Stark. So what type of person he is, what does he look like, do we know what his job is, and all of that. So when we start to look at the comic book here, what we'll notice is that we right away see a picture of what Tony Stark looks like. So we know that he is an older man. He has a mustache, he has darker hair. So in our box, we'd maybe just want to put a little description. He's an older man, mustache. So that's one of the first observations. Then when we start to look a little bit more, we learn that he has a laboratory. So we can also know that he is a scientist, which we do find out as we continue looking. So again, if we look up here to the left, you'll see that it states where he's at. It also gives us his name. Okay. So when we go back to our worksheet, here we can say he's a scientist. So as we also can see here in this particular slide is we realize he's making weapons for the military, because even if we look at their location, he's in the U.S. defense perimeter. So he's clearly working with a general if we look at the way that he's dressed, and they also call him general. Okay, so here you can see from the text and from the images that he is in fact making weapons for the military. So again, here we could put down makes weapons for the military. Let's continue looking more at who we find out that he is. Well, we find out that he is a very handsome and rich individual. He goes to parties, and again, he is part of high society. And so our further information that we can add here is he's a billionaire. We know that he is a businessman, which we could also see earlier on. And so we just kind of collect these small notes on who he is as a person. Okay. Then when we're looking at what events happen that cause him to change into something super. So remember when you watched your video on origin story, super is where they seem to get their the thing that's special about them. So as we scroll down through the comic book, we start to have the villains portrayed to us so that we know, hey, these are probably who Tony Stark or Iron Man is going to end up dealing with. And if you remember in the documentary part 1, it talked about how in a lot of these early comics, the people of different races and parts of the world were not depicted in a very nice or culturally sensitive way. And this particular comic book is an example of that. So here we have our bad guy. This is Wong Chu. If you didn't notice, we've now gone into the South Vietnam jungle. So our location has changed from a US military base. And down here, we have on the outskirts of the jungle, we see Stark walking in to the forest. He's doing some work with the military, and he trips on a wire, which causes an explosion. So it's a booby trap. And then from there, we see that he's captured. and he's taken to the headquarters of the bad guy. And we learn that there's some shrapnel in his chest and it's moving towards his heart. Okay. And then he's told by the bad guy, oh, hey, you have to design weapons for us. But Stark again knows, hey, there's stuff wrong with him. So he's introduced to a tech area where he is given tons of materials, but he's told, make me a weapon. So, of course, Stark says, I will make you the most fantastic weapon of all. But if you scroll down and look here to the left, he also says, I'm going to make something to keep me alive. So if we go back to your worksheet, what event happens that causes him to change into something super? Well, we find out that he is taken prisoner and has shrapnel in his body moving towards his heart. And he makes or he invents something to save his life. So he's going to essentially invent the Iron Man suit. Now we have to look at what event causes him to be a hero. So we have the super part of this. We know that he's working on a suit. But while he's in captivity, he meets this man and he wants to work with him. They're going to work together to create his suit. So again, we're watching as he's becoming super, he's getting his powers and things like that. So while the older gentleman is helping him with his suit, they know that they don't have enough time to get his suit going. And so what he ends up doing is sacrificing himself to give Tony Stark more time. And if you look over here on the right panel, it says, you will not have died in vain, my friend. I swear it. The Iron Man swears it. And so what inspires him to become a hero is actually two different things. One is he wants to escape and deal with the bad guys. So he wants to make sure that, they're dealt with, and he wants to get out of here. But what really triggers it, what's a bit of motivation beyond just being able to save himself from any kind of harm that might come to him, is he wants to take revenge for the man who helped him. So that's essentially what causes him to be a hero. He's able to kind of take out the bad guy. So in this particular story of Iron Man, the only person who's really destroyed, or so we assume, is in fact Wong Chu, because he's the one who orchestrated all of this. And Tony even calls him a tyrant. So as we go towards the end, we want to try to think about, well, what is he going to do now? He's made this really awesome suit. He's taking out the bad guys. He's doing all these things to be a hero. But as we get to the end of the comic book, we're not left with much. He's beat the bad guy. Where is he supposed to go now? And so it ends with him saying, as for the Iron Man, that metallic Hulk who once was Anthony Stark, who knows what destiny awaits him? Time alone will provide the answer. Time alone. But at the very bottom, it says that Iron Man is going to be back with more adventures. But do we really know what Iron Man is going to be fighting? Do we know what he's going to be dealing with at the end of this comic? We do not. And so down here, I put down no. We just know he's going to think about to do with his powers. And so down here, we don't really know what's going to happen. We need a follow-up story because we just don't understand where he's going to go with this. And so when you start to develop your own character, you want to start to think about these things. What events are causing your character to become super? What event triggers them to become that hero, to take charge, to fight the villainy that they're going up against? So tomorrow we're going to look at some movie clips and we will talk about those notes. And then this might be a 2-day activity. And then I'm going to have you do a quick compare and contrast at the bottom of your worksheet. If you have questions, please email me and let me know how I can help you.